Christmas, so I just had to throw that in there. Today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade granola. Now this recipe kind of goes along with our healthy snacking lesson, but it also can go along nicely with our whole grain lesson where we talk about the difference between complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates. But let's just move on to how to make this homemade granola. So what I'm going to do first is kind of get our semi-wet ingredients started. And so I'm going to start out with some peanut butter. And by the way, I'll put all the measurements in your Google Classroom for you to look at, okay? This is referred to as a Wonder Cup. And so I've got this peanut butter measured, and then it slides out lickety-split like that. Works pretty awesome. I was very fortunate to have a lot of Pampered Chef items purchased for me after we lost our house to a house fire. So shout out to everybody who helped me purchase those things. Now I'm going to add some honey in the mini Wonder Cup, which again is awesome. And then my other kind of liquid ingredient, it's not liquid yet, but it's the butter. You need 6 tablespoons. And so remember when we measure, we're going to have a measuring lesson coming up for you 6th graders, but when you measure butter, there's 8 tablespoons in 1 stick, right? So I only need 6, and the label, the measurements are right on the stick of butter, so that looks really slick. So there's where the 6 tablespoon mark is. Just trying to keep everybody engaged. Okay, so we have peanut butter, and honey in a pan, and I'm going to melt that on low because that's going to help things, it'll help when we stir it with our dry ingredients. If it's all melted together, it'll smooth a little bit better. I want to say one word about honey too. My particular jar of honey comes from this, I call him the honey guy, but I guess he raises bees, right? Down the road in Wood River, and that's where we get our honey. So we have nice, fresh, raw, local honey. But listen, if you don't have access to that or you can't get that, no worries. Just use regular honey, okay? So for our dry ingredients, and right now I'm making a double recipe. Again, the recipe I put on your Google Classroom will just be not a double recipe. So you need 6 cups, this holds 2, oats. And as you can see, oats are a whole grain. This kind of oats, or these kinds of oats are. They're a whole grain, which means it's the grain itself. So 2, 4, 6. And then we're going to add some nuts. I chose walnuts. If you don't like nuts, don't add them. I'm going to chop them. I'm just going to throw in my little chopping safety technique here. When you're chopping something like nuts, don't worry about keeping your hand that's not holding the knife anywhere but on top of the knife, okay? Then you can go pretty fast and you're going to ensure that you're not going to cut yourself. So use chopping safety when you're chopping the nuts. Like I said, I'm using walnuts, but pecans are good. And if you don't want to use nuts, you don't have to add them. Really with granola, you can really pick and choose what you want to add and not add as far as nuts go. I'm going to add coconut, but that's optional, so if you don't like coconut, you don't have to add that. You can add chocolate chips, but don't add the chocolate chips until after you're done baking this granola, because what's going to happen to the chocolate chips in the oven, right? They're going to melt. So don't do that until the end. And your dried fruit, if you wanted to add raisins to this, you could, or dried cranberries, but don't do that until the end. Okay, so then we need 2/3 cup of coconut, if you want, which I like. I'm going to add a little bit more than that. And we need 1½ teaspoons of salt. And I just like to use my hands to mix all that in. And then we're going to go check and see how our peanut butter, honey, and butter are doing. Okay, so as you can see, for the most part, that's nice and smooth and melted. At this point, I'm gonna add, no, I'm not using measuring tools here, but that's okay. About 4 teaspoons of vanilla. I really like the vanilla flavor. And you guys, there's loads of different granola recipes online, so use whatever one you think sounds good. I just wanted to show you how simple it really is. I'm gonna give that a little stir, and I'm gonna take it off the heat. And we're gonna make a little hole in the middle of those dry ingredients. And then I'm going to use my spatula to scrape my homemade granola sauce into the dry granola. And I'm preheating the oven to about 350 degrees. We're gonna stir all this up until everything's nice and moist and covered with the sauce. And it's not gonna be like super wet, but it shouldn't be real dry either. You just wanna make sure all of the dry ingredients are covered with that sauce. It really should be the perfect ratio of sauce to dry ingredients. And I'm gonna give it a taste test real quick before I put it in the oven. Actually, eating it raw is pretty good too. When you put it in the oven, it just is obviously gonna get crunchy. And my kids like to eat this homemade granola just plain with milk, like a cereal, or mixed with yogurt. So, or just plain as a snack. All right, so you're gonna take a cookie sheet and spread your granola out. You don't wanna make it, like I have a lot extra here, so I'm gonna put this on another cookie sheet. You don't wanna make it too thick. All right, spread that out, and then this is gonna go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna rotate it and see how it's coming along and bake it another 10 minutes. And if it's starting to get crunchy, then I know it's done. But sometimes you may have to let it go another few minutes if you want it crunchy. And once you take this out of the oven and it cools off, then like I said, you could add some chocolate chips or some dried fruit. All right?